inspirational and powerful stories that I wouldn't want to have to end abruptly. So we're going to jump right in. Welcome, welcome. Thank you all for being part of our first virtual town hall on behalf of our Peace Players Girls campaign. If you've spoken to me in the past year, I've been talking and raving about this campaign, and we launched in February of this year with a lot of energy and momentum and interest behind the work that we're leading. If you've yet to meet me, I'm Sally Namani, and I'm the Chief Partnerships Officer at PeacePlayers. I've been part of the organization for over 10 years, having worked in Northern Ireland. I moved back home right when we were starting a partnership with Nike to expand into the US. And I established the program in Brooklyn before transitioning it to Coach Alicia and the team there. And spent some time as a co-executive director at PeacePlayers US with my co-ED David, who's now our Chief Programs Officer. And the past year, I've been more so on the fundraising and development side of things, really thinking about the work that we're doing with girls and young women. When I first moved back to Brooklyn, before I jump straight into who we are, and what we're about, um, we launched in the US with the whole ethos and the learnings that come out of our international sites of using sports as a way to bridge divides and develop young leaders. And in 2016, you can imagine what the United States was, super polarized and so polarized. And we have this vision to use sports as a way to bridge divides and connect young people in very different neighborhoods and cities across the US. One of the first things that stood out to us was low participation of girls. And for me, having played basketball growing up, it was just, unacceptable. And so before the rave and energy around women's basketball has become what it is today, we have been really invested in girls and young women and creating access to basketball and sports for them, not just to play, but because we know, the positive benefits that come from being an athlete, the leadership skills that you develop, the confidence that you build. I credit a lot of those traits I was able to develop on the basketball court, and I've seen it happen for so many of our young people and the girls that you hear from today. So, throughout today's session, we want it to be super relaxed. It's really about taking a journey through these young women's stories. We have Belfast, Northern Ireland represented in Grace. We've got Brooklyn represented in Coach Alicia and Shamaya. We have South Africa represented in Fatima and Sanae. And I am going to be co-hosting it with my dear friend, Arlesha Amazan. Arlesha is based in Miami. She's worked with major athletes like Steph Curry, Dwayne Wade on their athlete partnerships and how they really bake an impact into their business ventures. And so before we jump in, I'm going to pass it over to Arlesha to introduce herself, and then she'll come back to me and we'll take it from there.
Thank you so much, Sally. I appreciate you. And hello, everyone. My name is Arlesha Amazon, coming at you from Miami, Florida. And it's an honor to be here with all of you today, especially for a conversation centered around such a powerful and important initiative. For those who may not already be acquainted with me as founder and strategic advisor at Champion Strategies, my work sits at the intersection of athlete strategy, branding, business, and helping athletes and individuals turn their personal ideas into long lasting missions in the marketplace. And so, being in a space like this, where we're hearing directly from young women navigating their journeys and their aspirations and their impact in their communities, is extremely meaningful to me. What I'm especially excited about today is that this isn't just a conversation about you and these girls, it's a conversation with you and them. We get to hear their voices, their experiences, and the perspectives that they're shaping across different parts of the world. And so, Sally, I can't thank you enough for including me and thinking about me for today's town hall. And with that, I'm going to pass it right back to you.
Great. Thank you so much. Again, Arlesha, welcome. Arlesha, since learning about the campaign, has been a champion and supporter. And so I hope that by the end of today's session, that as many of you are champions and supporters of the campaign. And to share a bit about what we're trying to achieve through this effort is really about creating more opportunities for girls and young women across all of our sites to have access to year-round quality female-only sports programming and leadership training. And to achieve that, our goal is to raise 500,000 annually over the next 3 years and train 100 female coaches to help drive those programs and reach 5,000 new girls and young women across all of our sites. And so being able to achieve that, one requires visibility, and that's why we're hosting events like this to introduce and introduce the girls and our work to you all and also to new audiences. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is to make sure that our programs are consistent, they're frequent, and they're year-round. And how we get there is by inviting more people into this network, into the Peace Players movement. And with that said, our sites represent the Middle East, specifically Israel and the West Bank, Northern Ireland, South Africa, and 5 cities in the US. So we are in Brooklyn, Baltimore, LA, Detroit, and Chicago. One of our sites right now is in an active war. And Israel, as you all know, if you've been keeping up with the news, Israel has been on the news quite a lot for a lot of negative things. But underneath all of those things are just really positive and inspirational stories. It's unfortunate that we can't share as much of it right now because of uh, just the safety of the young people and the coaches in our programs. But I was able to invite Bella, who leads our Peace Players Middle East work, to share with you all a quick update of, what's been going on there the last 3 years. But more importantly, the last couple of weeks since the US and the Iran conflict escalated. So, Bella, we're going to invite you up and we'll take it from there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sally. So pleasure and honor to be alongside all these inspiring women, and I really look forward to hearing your stories. So my name is Bella Kovner, and I'm the managing director of Peace Players Middle East. I joined the organization immediately after October 7th. And since then, I'm continuously inspired by the strength and resilience of our girls participants, women coaches, and alumni who are spreading the values of hope and peace within their communities and beyond at national and international forums. For the past 2.5 years, our teams were able to create safe spaces, safe or brave spaces, we also call them, where young women who grow up in a conflict zone can meet, develop meaningful friendships with girls from the other side, and develop their leadership skills. Ongoing war, the growing violence and division, the most recent war with Iran, and the overall uncertainty in our region, none of these has managed to stop our own ongoing activities on and off the court. The girls start their leadership pipeline, we call it, as early as 7 or 8 years of age. And as they develop, as they grow up, we change the program and it's adaptive to their growing needs. From that early age, they develop as the next generation of peace builders and women leaders in the region. Our programs include basketball, and we attend the different national leagues as the only mixed Arab Jewish teams in the region. They participate in peace building activities. They attend overnight retreats. They organize community events at their communities. They organize also basketball tournaments for unaffiliated teams. And the older participants function as the role models for the younger ones. And all of this and more is happening right now as we speak during the war, the ongoing war. And none of these has stopped also for the past month. We had a small pause, but we're back on the courts. Today, more than ever, we are determined to continue our work and spread the message of peace and coexistence. During these difficult times, the Girls Campaign is critical for our young, brave, and resilient women to continue their pathway, to connect with each other, and from girls from other conflict and post-conflict areas, and eventually become the next generation of peace builders and frontliners in their communities. So we're really excited to be here during this critical time. And passing it back to you, Sally.
Thank you, Bella. I appreciate you being on the call. The time difference, the situation on the ground, I know hasn't been easy for our team there. And so your courage and just your way of just continuing to show up over the last several years is one that I really admire and commend. So thank you for providing that update for us. With that said, I'm gonna pass it back to Arlesha to kick us off and take it away.
Awesome. And again, thank you again, Dr. Bella. So let's kick off by getting to know each of you, these wonderful young women that are on our screen right now. Want to get to know you a little better before we dive deeper into your PeacePlayers journey. So a few questions for you all. Can you each share where you're from, how long you've been part of PeacePlayers, and something about growing up in your community that has shaped who you are today? In no particular order.
I'll start. Hi, everyone. I'm Serene Mohammed. I'm from the Middle East. I was born and raised in Jerusalem. I'm currently located in the US, specifically Pennsylvania. I go to school here. Um, I've been part of Peaceburgers for almost 15 years. I joined when I was 6 years old, mainly because of my sister, Jinan. Just wanted to be like her, wanted to follow her. Um, Growing up in my community shaped me in ways I didn't fully understand at that time. I grew up surrounded by conflict, where identity is something you you're born into, you don't choose. You learn very early who you're supposed to trust, who you're supposed to fear, and who your side with the side that you belong to. But at the same time, I was raised in a family that challenged some of those expectations, especially as a girl in the Arab society. Um, Sports is never something encouraged or supported by my community. So that tension between what I was taught and I was experienced is what shaped who I am right now. Thank you.
And Serene, can I jump in real quick? Can you tell us where the name of your community, where in in the Middle East that you're from?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Jerusalem, in a small village called Beit Safafa. In the beginning, when I joined Peace Players, it was a very small team in the village itself, and it was mainly just Arab girls. And then with time, and we would have like a mixed practice once in a week at the YMCA Sports Center, or hand in hand school, and do we would practice together as a 6 years old. It would be mainly like activities and some fun things to do. If that answered your
Yeah,
question.
it does. It does. Thank you. And if you all have questions, you can use the chat, but we plan to reserve about 10 minutes at the end for questions. So, Grace, you want to go next, and then we'll go Sanae and Shmaya, and then Fatima.
Hi, I'm Grace. I'm from Peace Players Northern Ireland, Belfast. I've been in Players for about 7 years. I joined in 2019, I think, just before COVID. And something from my community that shaped me, I think, is just like Irish culture and being like so aware of our culture, because in Northern Ireland we're quite divided between being British and Irish. And I think when you're part of one of those groups, your culture becomes like everything. Like our the two cultures in Northern Ireland are split, so everything you do is surrounded by like your identity. So my music, my language, the schools I go to is all to do with like just the area I'm from. So I think that's a big thing that shaped me in my community was my culture, because a lot of things that are to do like a lot of things in Northern Ireland are based off what religion you are and what area you're from. So I think that's what has shaped me.
Hi everyone, my name is Sari Sire. I'm from PeacePlayers, South Africa. I've been in this program for 3 years full, and this year is my fourth year. And I was raised and born in South Africa. Um, Growing up in my community shaped who I am today, as I grew up in a community where there was full of division. I grew up in a community where there was no resources, no facilities for the youth, basically, to come together and grow. So it was a very divided community. Everyone was just doing their own thing. And it has shaped me who I am, because sometimes I just say to myself, I want to make change. I will be the first person who will make change in my community and change the structure of it, and actually encourage the youth, basically, which is the one that is struggling because of this division, since there's no unity. So I want to be the change and basically use my peace-based skills that I've gotten for the past few years, and actually um, teach the youth how to be better people. And with having that dream and goal in mind, it has shaped me to be a person who takes leadership very seriously and be who I am and excel in everything I do and be a good example. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shamaya Grant. I've been in Peace Players for around 4 years. This will make my fourth year. Um, I growing up in my neighborhood has shaped me as a person today because I was born and raised in a rough neighborhood. And they say when you are born in a rough neighborhood, you can't make it out of that neighborhood. So it makes me more aware, resilient, and motivated. And to know the importance of having a community and a village because you want to take advantage of the opportunities because they don't come around much. I feel like that wanted me to be a better person and push myself to be more out there, especially with like to support my community a lot more.
Greetings to everyone. I'm Fatima Fall from PeacePlayers South Africa. I have been part of PeacePlayers for just over 2 years now. And some things that have shaped the person I am today in my community. Firstly, I have to say it wasn't always easy, as for most of us. There were times where opportunities felt limited, inequality in various aspects like gender, class, age was all around me. And my peers and I struggled to find spaces where we could express ourselves freely and in whatever way we choose. But those challenges, of course, shape the person I am. And if I could say now, I'm actually grateful for them because I wouldn't be who I am without them. And growing up in a community surrounded by diversity, knowing South Africa, it's sometimes referred to as the Rainbow Nation because there are many cultures, many traditions. So that blended showed me sort of unity and allowed me to attain respect for everyone around me. And also seeing my neighbors and friends stand up for each other because we all face, as a community, we all face these challenges. So Ubuntu, which is what we call in South Africa, was necessary where we had to work together to all achieve one goal and to live peacefully. So yeah, that helped me attain compassion. And then lastly, I'd say seeing the youth and these opportunities limited for many of us, and crime and peer pressure in my community increased by the day, it really lit something in me where I I didn't want to accept it that way, and I didn't want it to stay that way. So it really made me want to change things. And I think that's what drove me to want to lead in many aspects, not for recognition, but rather to change my community for the better and inspire youth like myself, girls, boys, us teenagers who lose hope very easily.
Great.
So yeah,
Thank you,
thank
Fatima.
you.
Thank you. So we'll keep moving. I think Arlesha is back to you.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you for those answers. Very inspiring. We appreciate it. And, I'll pose this question. Maybe Sane, out of South Africa, would love to hear from you. What made you stay involved in your local Peace Players program? Was there a moment where you realized this is something special? I want to remain here.
There are a lot of moments I had in PeacePlayers South Africa. I would love to say though, at first I was very scared because of my personality, but since my character was just developing as the years went by, one of the special moments is one of the Peace Players South Africa biannual events, which is known as Citywide Tournament, which is one of the biggest events for Peace Players SA, where um, plus 600 children, boys and girls, get together and play and come together irregardless of their races. So this event basically makes me so happy and makes me meet so many people out of only just my LDP program, but also meet other people who are very passionate about basketball and just passionate about meeting other people and just spending the day doing something that you love and being joyful. And yeah, that I think citywide tournament has to be one of my special moments with Peace First South Africa.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Sally, perhaps for that, for educational purposes, for those who might be on the line, Sane mentioned the LDP program. Um, Wondering if you can give a quick overview of what that program is.
Absolutely. So if you remember earlier, Bella talked about kind of this leadership pipeline within Peace Players, and you hear Serene joined when she was 6 years old. And so what we like to do is to reach young people as young as possible and keep them engaged over a long period of time within our programs. The leadership development program is kind of the top of that program in that it's designed for high school aged young people. This is right before they become alums of Peace Players. It's really centered around having young people who represent both sides or the different divides in the places where we're working, and using sport and basketball in particular as really the lens in which we explore the conflicts that they're navigating. And so, why basketball, right? Basketball is one of the few sports where you absolutely need collaboration and real teamwork to be successful both on the defensive end and on offense. And, Serene talked about identity, right? Our kids walk into the program with the baggage of previous generations and all of what they're seeing in their communities of who they should trust and who they shouldn't. And so when they join the program, they're now on a team with young people from the side who they're not supposed to trust. You can't play basketball and win games if you don't trust your teammates, right? And so basketball has this natural and organic way of forming bonds and friendships. And that's why it's what people say, do you use other sports? There's a reason why it's basketball because of the way it's inherently designed to encourage collaboration and healthy competition. And so you've got in Israel, in the Middle East, for example, you've got Arab and Jewish young people competing on the same team and like the equivalent of the AAU in the US. And not just competing, but they're winning games. They're really strong teams, right? And so the ethos and the model behind our program is really about our young people shedding the identity and the shedding identity that is connected to a negative connotation of the other side and really absorbing and embracing this new identity of being part of a program where they're building friendships with kids from the different side and building lasting connections. And throughout their experience in the LDP, there's a heavy investment in their leadership ability. So even today, like today is them working on sharing their story, feeling comfortable speaking to an audience and working on their public speaking. All of this is foundational for them being peace builders and leaders within their community. So there's the basketball and the competitive element and confidence building on the court. And there's also the, helping develop the whole individual and supporting them and becoming leaders within their communities.
Love that. Now, we're going to take a pivot to talk about friendships in the middle of war and conflict. And we're going to start this conversation off with our young woman who is representing the Middle East, Serene. For me personally, I had the opportunity to spend time in Israel several years ago. This was back in 2018, 2019, and had the utmost privilege to experience the richness and the cultures. I remember one of my most memorable experiences was spending time in a kibbutz community for a few days and immersing myself in, again, not just the richness of Israel, but also immersing myself in the complexities of conflict, visiting the Gaza Strip and understanding more about the Gaza conflict. I say this with the utmost reverence that our hearts are with you all right now. But Serene, can you tell us a bit about your PeacePlayers team? Who's on it? What's it been like being a part of it, and what it's meant to you at this time?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. You know, it's I would start with it's not easy with everything going on right now and having everyone that I call my family back home and not having the control to do anything and just watching the news, seeing from far away is really difficult. But as I said earlier, I first joined Peace Players when I was very, very young. I had no idea what it was about. I didn't know the peace part of it. Um, and as I said earlier, growing up in an Arab community as a female is not easy. I was in high school, we were 30 students in class. I was the only female who played sports. Um, so at the beginning, when I was at that age, I really thought that it was just basketball. Then slowly it became something more bigger than just playing basketball. Um, our team was mixed with some Palestinians, Arabs, and Jewish Israelis girls. At 6 or 7 years old, we didn't sit down and talk about politics. We didn't even speak the same language. So at first, we communicated through body language, whether it's passing the ball, pointing, running, laughing at mistakes. That was our first shared language. But over time, it turned into real communication. Now I'm 21. I'm fluent in Hebrew. Sometimes, even when I speak in Hebrew, sometimes people think that I'm Jewish just because of my accent, just because of how fluent I am in Hebrew. And you know what? That did not come from a classroom. It came from relationships. It came from being in the same space over and over again, with people I was supposed to see, as their friend. Um, Peace Players truly opened doors I did not even know they existed. It gave me opportunities to travel, lead, speak, having these kind of speeches with people I've never met in my life. And more importantly, to just grow as a person. And I think more than all what I learned and what I got from Peace Players, it changed how I see people. It taught me that connection doesn't really just come from having the same background. It comes from showing up, consistently, and being willing to see each other as people and just beyond labels, beyond what you were raised and hearing, whether it's in the media or whether what you were taught at home. Um, and to be honest, being part of the team wasn't always easy. Like I'm talking when I was like 14, 15, there were some moments of tensions or, moments where the outside reality actually followed us into the gym. Um, but I think we kept playing, and that experience shaped in a way nothing else could. Now, as a college athlete, I carry all of that with me. For me, basketball is still basketball, but it's deeper than that. I don't take teamwork for granted. I don't take, communication for granted. I know what it means to build trust across difference. And because I've truly lived since I was a kid. Um, so I think. I don't know, Peace Players didn't just made me a better athlete. It made me a better person, made me a person who willing to accept anyone, anywhere in the world. Um, so yeah, I think Peace Players just made a lot of who I am today, and I'm really, really grateful.
Uh, Thank you so much, Serene, for
Of
sharing that.
course.
What your both what your story and your experience highlights is just how much basketball is such a connector. To your point, it is not just a sport for the sake of being a sport, it is a connector, and creates that unity. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, from the Middle East
Sa-
to,
Sally and Alicia, um, can I introduce myself? Because they might be wondering why this gentleman is on the line.
George, you could definitely do that in the chat for us, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. All right, Alicia, go for it.
absolutely. So from the Middle East to the BK, we are going to go to Coach Alesha, who is program director of Peace Players Brooklyn. Now, Alicia, you played basketball from a young age, similarly to many of these young women on the line with us. You played at Mercer University before transferring over to Xavier University of Louisiana, which, for those who don't know, Xavier is an HBCU. Tell us about your journey to Peace Players and the work that you're leading in Brooklyn.
Yeah, no, what is so amazing, and I smile and grin so much listening to these young women speak. What's amazing is that I'm right now in back home in Georgia visiting, and I'm sitting in the room where right after practices I would lay down and dream about what would happen next for me, and so I'm just so grateful to have this conversation with you all. As mentioned, my name is Arlesha Smith. I'm the director of Peace Players Brooklyn, and to the point that Serene mentioned, it has always felt bigger than basketball for me. I can remember being a young woman in my community. I was the only girl in the family, so I have an older brother who is 6'6", a younger brother that is 6'5". I am 5'6.5", but I like to say I'm the best athlete out of the family. And I remember those days on the court playing with my brothers, and them always choosing me as the person, the first pick, not out of sympathy, but they knew that their sister could hoop. And that kind of being my life. Being around and surrounded by basketball, but then also knowing that I don't want to just be the basketball player. I know how this thing can build communities. Growing up in Athens, there's the east side of Athens and the west side of Athens, and there was a lot of conflict, gang violence because of it. And I remember going to basketball games, playing for like the rival high schools, and that was the one time that people come together and show their support loudly, but it brings people together. So seeing that at an early age made me really want to know how can we use this game as more than just a way to get a college basketball scholarship, but to build young leaders. So I actually met Sally. It might have been on the basketball court, Sally. I was working in the nonprofit sector at the time, doing something a bit different, but still wanted to be connected to the game. So I was playing pickup basketball with Sally, and she's telling me about this thing, Peace Players. It sounded nice, and she invited me to a girls' summit that they hosted at Nike's headquarters. And I agreed to go, and I was coming to be the speaker. And I just remember how transformational that moment was for me, because it was these beautiful young women from Brownsville, Brooklyn, who traditionally don't get the chance to take up space in this elevated Nike headquarter, and to see them own it and be proud to be in the space to play, whether they had experience playing or not. I think that just spoke volumes about the work that PeacePlayers is doing to bring in young women and to promote female coaches and athletes. I think Coach D is on the call as well, who was also there. So I think that just spoke volumes and made me want to be a part of the PeacePlayers movement. So I would say like a year and some change later was the role came up for PeacePlayers Brooklyn director, and I've kind of had the opportunity to take part in it ever since. But I'm just so grateful for the young women. I grinned so hard seeing Shamaya be on this call because I remember her as an eighth grader. So she's been in our LDP program for 4 years, but as an eighth grader, so she's been with us for 5 years, and she was here for my start. And to see her speak up and use her voice in the way that she has, I'm just so proud. And then to meet girls internationally like Serene, like Grace, and everyone else on this call is just it shows the interconnectedness that sport has and the power that it has to build up young leaders. So I'm just so grateful.
Absolutely. And of course, you would meet Sally on the court. Of course.
Imagine getting your next job just being on the basketball court playing. Yeah. And I think we were on the same team, Sally. We won that game.
Now, with that being said, your work is very much grassroots hoops focused. And earlier, Sally gave us a rundown on the leadership development program. And you're looking, Coach Arlesha, to bring that same program to youth in the competitive circuit. Why is that important to you?
Yeah, so as a young woman who came out of the competitive circuit, so I played competitive basketball from the age of 7 to 18. The goal was to get a college scholarship. And I remember once I finished, the identity crisis that happens of like, who am I without this thing? I've played all my life. Like, what is next? And as I was thinking about PeacePlayers and how that would have been so helpful for me, it made me think about bringing this leadership development program to that space. And we've been working with a high school called South Shore. Typically, always are winning the championships in New York. Another high school we work with is East New York Family Academy. But traditionally, these are like some of the best public school basketball programs in New York City. And people would see PeacePlayers, and it speaks more to the holistic person as opposed to this competitive, we want you to be the best basketball player, train, train, train. And I've been an advocate around why can we not do both? Why can we not make sure that young women get a chance to play basketball at a high level, but then also hold space for, I can hold you accountable, but still be compassionate. I can speak to the core values and making sure that young women come out of these programs with integrity. So I think it was just that question of wanted to ensure that once the basketball stops bouncing, you're not losing a sense of self, and that happening and finding your sense of self before you get to those bigger stages and before you kind of leave the college space, and that being important. So I'm so excited about the work that we're doing with LDP in the more competitive basketball realm, because New York City is the competitive basketball space. So it's only right that we kind of push and go further in that way.
Absolutely. And we appreciate your efforts on that, Coach. With that being said, I'm going to pass the ball to Sally, who's going to continue the conversation forward.
Yes. Wow. A lot of what's been shared, especially in Serene's story and even Alicia's story. It's my first time hearing it. And how inspiring. And the next question is for Grace and Shamaya. I spoke a bit about the LDP program at PeacePlayers, and you all, obviously are longtime members of the program in Brooklyn and in Belfast. And I'm curious for you both, what is it about basketball that brings together young people in your in your site, in your part of the world?
Um, so I'm Grace and I'm from Ireland, and the thing about Northern Ireland is we're split into two religions, so you've got Catholic and Protestant, but everything in our country is like revolved around these two religions. So like the school you go to, the sports you play, just everything, the area you live in, everything revolves around your religion. So like I'm from the Catholic community, so normally we would play, like Gaelic, hurling, stuff like that there. Irish sports that are tied to my religion, but the thing about basketball in Northern Ireland is it's not tied to a religion. So there's no, if you told somebody that you played basketball, they can't be like, oh, you're a Catholic or you're a Protestant. So it's one of those sports that like it's for anybody.
Hey,
And
come here.
especially for peace players, it's like um there is no religious tie to any of the teams. And in Northern Ireland, the conflict between the two religions has went on for like more than 100 years. So people have got into this way of life of like, this is your religion and this is your sport and this is your religion and your sport. Whereas basketball isn't tied to anything in um any religion. So it's one of those sports that like it doesn't matter what religion you are over here or what your background or culture is. It's one of those sports that anybody can come into and anybody can join, like no matter what your religion is.
And before Shemaya jumps in, Grace, I know that you just recently were the mastermind behind this new effort focused on more girls in Belfast and in Northern Ireland. So I would love for you to share a bit about how you created that. Share that with the group.
Um, well, it actually kind of started when I went to America during the summer for the global exchange. And I think it's safe to say that all the girls that came from Northern Ireland, when we came into the court, we were just a wee bit overwhelmed, and all of us were like, oh, I don't want to join in. Like, we're not on this kind of level that all these other girls were. And, you looked around the court, and the girls from America, they were just like amazing. Like, their confidence was amazing on the court, and like, they all looked like they had like so much love for the sport. And in Northern Ireland, like it's a very big thing to get embarrassed. Like everybody gets embarrassed about everything in Northern Ireland. You can't do anything without getting embarrassed. So it was one of them things where I walked into the court with all the American, South Africans and Middle East girls, and I just saw like how they weren't embarrassed and how confident they were. And that's when I kind of started to see the difference in like what I saw myself as a leader and how they saw themselves. So we did a focus group, and I heard all the different programs that are for girls in, the America, like their girls summit and all. And I just saw, I didn't see anything in Northern Ireland like that. So after talking to like some of the coaches, we did realise that there was a bit of a gap in the fact that there was no girls program or no space for girls to play basketball in Northern Ireland. So we kind of worked to get the aim of building the girls' confidence in like a safe space where we can, play basketball in our little girls group and build our confidence and do like team building stuff, and then still go back to our LDP program, which is mixed gender, it's all genders. So to have the ability to build your confidence in a safe space and then bring that into our normal LDP program was like the aim of the program. And just building that community within like the girls and peace players.
Thank you, Grace, and for being vulnerable, right? Like it's definitely a thing. It's not just in Northern Ireland. I think in other parts of the world. I do remember even when I was coaching in Brooklyn, and the girls would always say, "I don't want to look stupid," right? It's that feeling of just before you start to build your confidence, you're trying something new, you're stepping out of your comfort zone. Like you want a safe space to kind of build yourself up a little bit. And I don't want you all to feel like that experience is unique to just Northern Ireland. I think everyone experiences that, right? And just kudos to you for seeing that opportunity and raising your hand and launching this effort. I'm so excited to see what comes of it. Shemaya, I want to come to you now in Brooklyn. So Shemaya plays high school basketball. In fact, her older brother was one of the first people who joined Peace Players in the very early days. So she comes from a basketball family. And so Shemaya, tell us a bit about your experience in the LDP. You've been part of the Girls Summits. You've been to Detroit to the Friendship Games. Talk about like how you emerged as a person, as a basketball player through your experience in the LDP.
Well, I think like basketball for itself has been an escape for me. I feel like LDP and Peace Players has made it such a community where it's loving, it's positive, and you get better at basketball. I think basketball brings a lot of people from different backgrounds, especially troubled neighborhoods. Like I'm from a troubled neighborhood, I'm from Brownsville, Brooklyn, and that's seen as like a rough neighborhood in Brooklyn. And I think them being a bringing me into Peace Players and being a part of that, I feel like that was an escape for me for itself from being around uh violence and gang related things. I feel like that boosted my confidence in a sense of I can make it somewhere, I can be something without having to think about where I'm from. I think that also boosts me as a basketball player because I am better now thanks to Beast Players. You know, they have a great system. They have great coaches. I think these coaches also try like they instill in us our confidence. They encourage us to be more confident, especially when we speaking out here. They encourage me to be confident, and I feel like this is just a great program in itself. I think that the community needs this because we don't tend to get a lot of opportunities like this, especially when it comes to sports. Sports is not a big thing in Brooklyn. Well, now it is, thanks to PeacePlayers and PSAL. If y'all don't know what that is, public school athletic leagues, like Coach Alicia Mission with South Shore and East New York Family Academy is a lot of high school now starting to become more popular. And I think that's something that Brooklyn needs in itself versus just being about violence and a fairy neighborhood. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Shemaya. And what Shemaya just said about like, sports and basketball not really being big in Brooklyn. From the outside, you look at New York City, it's obviously it's a basketball hub and haven, but a lot of our schools don't have sports programs, especially public schools and neighborhoods like Brownsville and East New York, let alone a girls program and having the resources to have actual basketball seasons. And so it's one of the gaps that Peace Players has been able to fill in some of the schools in which we work. And so we're going to close it out with our kind of our conversation. I want to make sure we have time for questions. If you got a pressing question, feel free to drop it in the chat early. But Fatima, we're going to come back to you, right? Because when I look at across the girls here, everyone's been involved for 4 to 5 years. Serene, 13, 16 years, and you just joined last year. So you've been involved for just 1 year. What's been the standout moment for you for the past year since you've been part of Peace Players in South Africa?
Thank you. Starting off, I knew nothing about PeacePlayers. In fact, a friend only told me the basketball part of it. So I was like, I'm just going to train for basketball. And when I got there, I realized that there's just so much to it. And as a person, and mentioned earlier, I had it in me where I wanted to change stuff in my community, where I wanted to lead for better. So being part of Peace Players starting off last year, I realized that there are so many skills I attained being here. It wasn't only basketball. It wasn't only basketball. The life skills part of it, growing with the many people around you from different cultures, from different traditions, from different religions. It was like a community on its own that separated me from the community I grew up in. And the only difference was in this Peace Players community, it is a place where us young people actually felt safe, myself included. I felt safe, I felt supported, I felt valued, and most importantly, I I was able to attain half or if not more skills that I could use for my goal, my end goal. It was filled with encouragement and thanks to my coaches, shout out to them. They really, really helped me. Speaking now, you wouldn't ever think I experienced social anxiety. I had little to no confidence, but they always reminded me that my voice matters and everyone's important. In that space of basketball, there was no you just worked for you worked to better yourself. As a team, we encouraged each other. We was a part where we had different parts but one end goal. So as a person, I realized my part and I worked on it. I worked on myself. So overall, being part of Peace Players was one of the best things that could happen to me. I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity. And it reminds me of some moments where uh, we were in a game, and also starting, I had no basketball experience at all. I didn't know anything about basketball. I couldn't even bounce a ball to save my life. So starting off, when we had matches, the coach would put me on there purposefully, even though he knew that I was still building up my skills, I was still learning. He would put me on there purposefully, so I could challenge myself. I could allow myself to grow, to break that anxiety I had, to break that low self-esteem and low confidence I had. He put me on these games, and like that, I couldn't be more grateful. And honestly, I have um, attained valuable skill and valuable lessons from that. And also, what else? It's a lot. I can't
I
even.
know it's a lot and it's so much to cover and we're short
Yes.
of time, but I'm one glad to meet you and glad to see you involved in the program. And a couple of you have shouted out your coaches at different points, and all of this moves because of the coaches. And I see some of them are on the call. I see Coach Jasmine Cooper from Detroit is on the call, Coach Alita, obviously Coach Alesha. And if I'm missing anyone, please forgive me. But really, our female coaches are the ones, and our male coaches as well have been just a key driver to our programs, not just here in the U.S. but also across all of our sites. These young people continue to come back and are involved with the program because of the relationships they've been able to establish with their coaches. I also see Joanne in Northern Ireland. Please forgive me if I can't see everyone. There's so many faces on my screen right now, but I'm so grateful to be able to team up and collaborate with them, and the work that they're doing there in their sites is the reason why these girls are coming into themselves and becoming the leaders in their very own right. So thank you all for the time with us. I see a couple questions in the chat. One about how to get more involved in the campaign. I am dropping a link right now in the chat, which is a landing page on our website where you can learn all about the campaign and ways to contribute and to get involved, but a very easy task to do. Right after this call, we're going to have our first newsletter focused on the girls campaign and each of our special moments across our sites. That's going to go out right after this call. I invite you all to please share it out with people in your network who you know this will resonate with. Serene and Shemaya talked about this being more than basketball, and you see it in their stories. It started with wanting to just play a game and play sports, and over time, you've seen the impact it's had on them as individuals. And we want to be able to make this possible for more girls across all of our sites. So please share out the newsletter. And then we also invite you to think about how do you make invite peace players into some of your personal celebrations. Let's say you've got a birthday party coming up or a bar mitzvah, or your team wants to fundraise for another team. This would be a great opportunity to get involved and to lead a fundraiser, be it on behalf of Grace's new initiative in Northern Ireland, to help keep that consistent, not just for this year, but for future years. Super easy way to get involved, be it through a grassroots fundraiser, or second through sharing out that newsletter, or both. And if you want to learn more about ways to just overall get involved with the campaign, I'm going to drop my email in the chat. You can also easily find it on our website as well. You can reach out to me directly. I also see a question about volunteering in Brooklyn. Alicia is also very accessible, and we're always looking for volunteers and people to support our programs. I know we still have 5 minutes, and I want to make sure I leave time for questions. If anyone wants to come off mute and ask a question, be it to myself or the girls, you are more than welcome to do that before we close out. Okay. I will assume that you all are all wowed by by our young people. But thank you again for joining. We're going to follow up again with the newsletter and again actionable ways to get involved. But really grateful for your time with us, and reach out to me at any time about questions regarding the campaign.